Millions of people are going to hit the roads this weekend for Memorial Day, starting off the summer travel season. Law enforcement agencies are kicking off a safety campaign to make sure everyone buckles up.
This year marks the 25th anniversary for a Click It or Ticket. Chanu Hur tells us it's a message that law enforcement is sharing across the country.
We're not targeting folks. We just want to make sure that they're voluntarily complying.
It's a phrase drivers have heard over and over, click it or ticket.
We're just looking for folks, motorists that are unrestrained.
On Monday, Sergeant Brian Strickland with Kitty Hawk Police sat along Highway 17 between the North Carolina and Virginia border.
This is the first one that we've done border to border.
As the 2-week seatbelt safety campaign kicks off its first day with the border to border effort. Sergeant Strickland is the regional liaison for the North Carolina Governor's Highway Safety Program.
And it doesn't matter if we're doing it across state lines, agencies are doing it across city lines, county lines. It's just working in cooperation with your law enforcement neighbors.
Sergeant Strickland says seatbelt usage rates in North Carolina and Virginia are both pretty high. In North Carolina, it's about 90%. In Virginia, it's about 84%, which are both very high numbers compared to the rest of the country.
And the point of it is to get our usage rate up, because the higher the usage rate goes up, the lower our fatality numbers are.
He says national statistics show almost half of people who die in crashes every year aren't wearing seatbelts. Last year, about 5,600 citations were given out across 23 states that participated. Looking at national trends, Sergeant Strickland says seatbelt violations are going down.
The seatbelts are going down because I think more people are using their seatbelts.
Encouraging for law enforcement and other drivers on the road. In Chesapeake, Chanu Hur, 13 News Now.
According to law enforcement, wearing a seatbelt is the single most effective way to survive a crash. One of the focus areas of Click It or Ticket this year will be addressing low seatbelts usage at night. During last year's border-to-border program, law enforcement officers issued nearly 5,700 citations for seatbelt and child safety seat violations.